Hello, Namaskar. I'm Preeti Prakash. On January 3rd, 2026, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro was captured by the US Special Forces and then taken to New York. President Trump, in his following presser the next day, announced, in fact, said that they had conducted a very special and a very successful operation in Venezuela, and that President Maduro is in their custody, and that he's going to stand now. He's brought in here to New York to stand trial in front of the US court. He also said that from now on, US will be running Venezuela, and that all the oil companies of US will be controlling and kind of being there in Venezuela to fix up the infrastructure, to fix up other things which are going wrong in Venezuela as far as the oil resources are concerned. Now, such things, this was a huge thing, and such things, when they happen in the world, there are meant to be ripple effects around the globe. So to talk about this and lots more, I have with me as my special guests Ambassador Anil Trigunayat and Major General Anuj Mathur. Ambassador...
Jai Hind, Preeti. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, Jai Hind.
Thank you. Thank you, Preeti.
Welcome. And they both don't need any introduction, but Ambassador Anil Trigunayat has been ambassador to Libya, Jordan, and Malta, and he's a strategic analyst. Major General Anuj Mathur is a military expert and also a strategic analyst. So welcome both of you to my show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Preeti.
I'd like to start with Ambassador Trigunayat. So, as I just said, Nicolas Maduro was captured, abducted, and in the thick of night from Caracas, from his palace. And now he's in New York for trial at their court. And he's been blamed by President Trump for various reasons like drug trafficking, migration, and also he said that Venezuela keeps sending prisoners who do criminal and illegal activities in US. So now Trump, as he says that he's going to run Venezuela till further arrangements will be made. So how do you see this, and do you see how do you see this hegemonistic and imperialistic tendency of America, which it has just displayed under Trump, and which he's been very vocal of since his second term? So is it, you think it's that only, or it is, Maduro brought it on himself? How do you see this?
Well, thank you very much, Preeti. It's a great pleasure being with you again, and especially with General Mathur. I think that it is not new. United States has preferred regime change as a preferred mode of foreign policy conduct. More than 60 regime changes have been made and done by the United States. Several of them have happened in their backyard, which is the Americas. And as far as President Trump's second term is concerned, apart from being unpredictable, he is also very unilateralist, which means he doesn't care about the multilateralism, multilateral institutions, or other powers. This is how he has been able to impose, first using tariff as an instrument of extortion, and then threatening countries with dire consequences, and which has happened. One always believed that he is looking for peace. He doesn't want wars, but he believes war by other means. As far as Venezuela is concerned, you have to look at it also in the context of the recently announced the national security strategy of the United States, in which it has clearly said that it doesn't want to be a policeman of the world, but it wants to secure and dominate its Western Hemisphere. Now, in few years, last about decade or so, we have seen that many of these countries have started having closer ties with China, with Russia, with Iran, some other. Venezuela is a unique case where the communist regime was there, socialist regime, and which is also against the United States openly. And US considers that their oil companies have been cheated because of the because of the nationalization that happened, because they were made to lose the money. And secondly, the Venezuelans, especially Maduro, had begun to trade a lot in yuan, which is also a big red line for President Trump, who doesn't like the word de-dollarization at all. That was one. And then secondly, the United States wants to become the real oil superpower today and wants to control the choke points. If you remember, he talked about taking over Greenland, Panama Canal, Gulf of Mexico, or anywhere, wherever he thought was good for him. And that's precisely how he's proceeding and using his blatant power to reach there. Now, as we all know, the Venezuela is the highest deposits in the world, crude deposits it has. It has been very inefficient, and then it has been blockaded and sanctioned by the United States. So they were not able to produce as much. They were only doing it about 1 million barrels a day, whereas earlier they were doing 3.5 million barrels a day. So, plus they are not able to export, the infrastructure has been less. So, President Trump, in a very new kind of a style, has decided that he is going to appoint a committee which will be led by uh, Rubio and Pete Hegseth as well as his Interior Secretary and others, and wanting the oil companies from the US, who will be given the full military cover to exploit, upgrade the infrastructure and exploit the oil and everything, and control that whether it is Russia, whether it is China, the influence is reduced. So it's a long-term strategy. How far it will go, whether it will succeed or not, it'll only time will tell. How much resistance the uh, the Venezuelan army or the opposition or the current government shows. But it doesn't look like, because since yesterday you have seen the statements coming out of the acting president, Rodriguez, have changed significantly. Because when Trump said that if she is not going to behave, she is going to be given a worse treatment than even Maduro. So now everybody knows that the power speaks, and that's the language President Trump understands.
Well, moving to Major General Mathur, this operation was carried out in a clinical precision, and reports that I am seeing and which are there on social media also, is that the bodyguards actually, they gave away the president actually. So and the kind of action which was taken by these special forces was a very sophisticated one. Although such operations have been undertaken by US earlier also, like we saw how they pulled out Osama bin Laden. We also saw what they did in Afghanistan. I mean, Afghanistan, they just left everything and went away. It suited them that way. Libya, Iraq, there are many other examples. So I would like to understand from you from a military perspective also, how do these, US is an expert now, it is considered the best army and best in intelligence and everything. So these operations must surely be taking a lot of, expertise. So how do you see it from your perspective and any information that you have about it? Because now it is said that this operation is called a new open-ended foreign occupation. How do you see that?
Thank you, Preeti. If you want me to sum it up in one line,
Sure.
a masterclass military operation by the Delta Force. A Delta Force is an expert in all this kind of operations. But what has happened, this operation has not been launched all of a sudden. The build-up had been taking place for last 3.5 months. And that entire build-up, you don't deploy the best aircraft carrier in the world, the largest naval vessel in the world, to take on the drug peddlers' boats. So everything was clear from the beginning that there is going to be a major military intervention whether it will be in the form of an amphibious or aerial attack, or a kind of a operation like this, what they have done to pull out Maduro. Military operation wise, I agree that it's a great operation. But what about the legitimacy of this operation? What about the international okay of this kind of an operation? Are you trying to tell me that a United States of America can do what it likes in any type of any country, if they don't like that country, if that country is not towing their line, if that nation is not helping them in their MAGA, so to say, make America great again? See, the point is very clear. Whether Maduro got into power by any means, he was the sitting president of a sovereign nation. And you cannot set a precedence of this kind. See, I want to quote what he said in the New Year party, Mr. Trump, when he was asked that what is your New Year resolution. He said, I want to be a man of peace. Look who's talking in his 1 year as a president. The America has carried out 600 airstrikes, more than 600 airstrikes in various parts of the world. It began with Somalia, there was Iraq later, Syria, Nigeria, Iran. So the point is, he is claiming himself to be a president of peace, but he is using aggression. See, I'll tell you what, this system, this concept of peace through strength, Shakti se Shanti, this concept is there. But that Shakti should be your Shakti so that others don't fight with you. Make yourself powerful. That Shakti cannot be military and economic coercion. Now, what America has been doing, more importantly, over the last 1 year, in fact, they've always been doing, from 1954, what they did in Iran, Mossadegh, any number of examples can be given. But the President Trump is made it an instrument of his foreign policy, economic and military coercion. And double standards each place. He's saying that there is a Christian genocide in Nigeria, so I attack Nigeria. What about Bangladesh? What about KPK? What about Balochistan? What about many other places? What is happening in Gaza? So the point is very, very clear that President of America is only wanting to make sure that his business interests, he is a businessman, and his business interests need to be taken care of, and that is why all this facade of the entire thing has taken place. It is nothing to do with democracy. If it was democracy, if US is a champion of democracy, they should not have been talking to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is one place which has never seen election in their entire existence. If it was narco-terrorism, what kind of narco-terrorism you are talking about? Do you know where is the golden crescent of drug? Where the entire Earth's drug gets spun, golden crescent and golden triangle, one in the Southeast Asia and one involving Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Iran. Just because they need Pakistan, they don't want to do anything there. The Asim Munir himself is involved in a large scale drug peddling. See, the point is, they are only interested in Venezuelan oil, as the ambassador was saying, and it is very, very clear that the Venezuelans were aiding to keeping dollar outside the international trade. They were buying, they were selling, they were doing trade with China in yuan. Now you see, when there is a possibility coming up of a currency which is challenging the might of dollar, that is what is hurting Donald Trump. And for that, he is using military coercion against the weaker nations and economic coercions against the nations which can challenge him. Let me see if we can do the same to Russia.
Absolutely.
Let me see if we can pull out Putin from his bed at 2 o'clock in the morning with his wife.
I'll come back to this issue next. Moving on, to Ambassador Trigunayat. Let's talk about India's response. That is very important as well. So MEA just put out a very mild and a very restrained response. It was kind of walking a diplomatic tightrope. I mean, they said, that steering clear of all the, controversies. They didn't want to get there, I think. They did not mention international law, the press release which was given by MEA. It did not even mention the UN Charter and even the sovereignty of the nation. It was a very nuanced and a very general statement. They just said that we are concerned. We are concerned, and that all concerning parties should solve it, by dialogue and by peace. So how do you see this? Is it because you see we are trying to not hurt Trump? As it was just said that I think it was today only that it was said that the Trump himself said that Modi is wanting to keep me happy. And because in the context of the bilateral trade also, that's trade that we are working on. So what is your assessment, I would ask you, on this?
I think that in last few months, what I have witnessed is India has maintained a sort of a strategic patience and silence as far as the United States is concerned. An effort is being made to somehow not let the relationship deteriorate further. And that is precisely because a lot is at stake there. Comparatively, the whole purpose of any foreign policy also is to serve your national interest. Principles are there. And that's why India says we express deep concern at the developments and are following, which large number of countries have said very similar kind of things. Our stakes in Venezuela were very limited. ONGC had about $1 billion investments there in the oil. Somebody has a steel investments in the steel field. Not much was coming. In fact, if you remember that when President Trump and his administration has been forcing India to stop buying oil from Russia, India said, you allow us to buy from Iran and Venezuela. If that is the case. And of course, President Trump had different designs, as General Mathur brought out very clearly. So as far as India is concerned, I think is by condemning President Trump, it serves no purpose. It's very similar kind of a situation, I think, as the US called it as a law enforcement operation. President Putin had called his operation as a special operations. So I think that we have taken very similar kind of a view what we had taken on the Russian invasion of Ukraine. In a very similar situation, I think India has behaved.
Okay. General Mathur, Venezuela, as you just said, you spoke, it's the largest producer of oil in the world, and it is very clear that America is eyeing the oil resources there. All this exercise that was done by Trump was controlling the oil reserves, which whatever other excuses that he makes, irrespective. But Trump has also been eyeing, other countries like Mexico, like Colombia, sorry, not Colombia, Greenland, even Panama. He said that this Panama Canal is ours. So basically, I think he's looking for resources there also to occupy, control them. So how do you see this thing panning out in the entire region, and this operation? How will it, reflect on the region and the world for that matter?
Preeti, this is a very, very pertinent question. I will tell you what. He is not eyeing. He has declared that Mexico, Cuba, Colombia, be ready. A similar kind of a thing will happen. It is not that high. So the issue continues to remain. You recall what he said on 26th January last year when he took over, whatever date it was, when he took over as the president. One of the first things he said that I will take back Panama, I will occupy Greenland. Canada is my 50th or 51st state. His ideas were very, very clear. A coercive diplomacy was his way of doing things from the beginning of his tenure. And it is very clear that he does not want, it is not only these states, he does not want Chinese and Russian influence increase in these areas because of the oil, of whatever were the reasons. China's presence in Latin America, more importantly in the northern half of Latin America, was increasing, which was not making Trump any happy. Similarly, in the northern hemisphere, in the Arctic region, the presence of Russians and Chinese influence, not presence, I will say influence, was increasing. So that is where he was wanting to, make sure that somehow, some way or the other, their influence can be brought down. Now, the economic ties between Russia and China, and the economic ties between some of the Latin American countries with these two countries. These are the things which he is not happy with. He is telling India that you are aiding Russia's war effort in Ukraine. How India is aiding Russia's war effort in Ukraine? We are trading in rupees. Who's selling war fighting equipment to Russia in rupees? You please tell me that. Our involvement in the in Russia's war effort, to my mind, is minimal. So the point continues to remain that Donald Trump has his own ideas. He is not a president of America, so to say. He is a businessman who's creating, increasing the business empire of United States of America. It's very, I think there's no need for any explanations to that. Now, how it is going to impact that region? It is going to impact that region that America and China and Russia have already announced military aid to Venezuela. They will start pumping in the weapon systems there. And what America is doing to Ukraine, see, America is giving a warlike effort to Ukraine, because of which Ukraine is sustaining the war against Russia. Similar thing might happen in Venezuela. He has created a situation in a country which was good, bad, or ugly. I'll tell you what the reasons of the economic issues of Venezuela have been. People are saying that it was Maduro's policies, this, that, and the other. A lot has to be done, credited to the sanctions that America has imposed. Today, a very good, very flourishing nation 10, 15, 20 years ago is into absolute deep economic crisis is because of the sanctions imposed by the United States of America on Venezuela. You recall what was the Venezuela's economic status 2 to 3 decades ago. So the issue is the American coercive policy, which has created a situation, exactly that situation they are trying to create in Iran. This unrest which is taking place in Iran, you know who's behind it. So the things are, wherever countries are not adhering to him. Why Iran? I'll tell you. Iran, because in the Middle East, entire Middle East, he has support, he has bases, America, but Iran is the place where he has nothing. One. Two, Iran is not accepting the United States hegemonistic presence in the Middle East of this, and they are vociferous about it. So because of which things are they are in Iran. America's policies are very, very clear. They will make sure that they will find ways to reduce the influence of Russia and China. But Preeti, I want to tell you very clearly, China is going far ahead of them. Let there be no doubt about it. Chinese Navy has grown to be much larger than the American Navy. Some people may argue that the quality-wise it is not there, this, that, and the other. It's all, I think, they declared a 100-year marathon, if you recall, 100-year marathon, and they're running it well. And they want to be sole superpower after a certain amount of time, which I'm sure they are well on path to do that. Now, world, when you talk of world, see, when you do a thing like this, how would you oppose a possible thing like this in Taiwan by China?
I
What
would
moral
to come back
what
on that.
moral ground will you have to now tell Russia to get out of the war with the Ukraine? What more? You can't preach something else and do something else. So the moral ground the United States of America is losing. The problem, I will tell you, we do not have any international agency. United Nations organization is toothless. And since you do not have anyone who can dictate the rule-based international order, you can do what you want. The simple one-liner is today's world, what is right is might. If you have might, be it economic might or military might, you are right. And that's exactly what the United States of America is sending a message to the region and to the world, that we are economically and militarily mighty and will do what we like. Let us see who can oppose us. Preeti.
Ambassador Trignath, how do you see now Venezuela do you see it descending into chaos, or do you think the transition as the vice president who was there, vice president with Maduro, is now acting president? And do you think this government would go on, as she's also said that that we will okay, we are ready to cooperate with America? How do you see that? Also, because Trump has said that. Does not find the opposition leader who's outside in Japan or some other place is not really fit for the job. How do you see that?
Yeah, at least this intervention in Venezuela is with the plan that President Trump or the US administration has. The plan is how to secure the oil infrastructure and the oil resources, capitalize on that, and also make the infrastructure up to date with technology. Because initially, also, it was the United States which had invested in it, and eventually, after these oil installations and the oil wells were all nationalized, then the Americans felt cheated and all that. So he prepared all kinds of dossier against this guy, Maduro, and eventually took him out. Now, this current government, of course, his vice president, who's currently the acting president, initially started saying that we want Maduro back, and this was criticized very heavily. But in 24 hours, when Trump started threatening them, and they have seen the might of the Americans just 24 hours back. So obviously, they have come around. They said we would like to discuss and talk to them. Now, there are several things that need to be, there are many imponderables in this. On the face of it, it looks like that it could be easy because a lot of the Venezuelans are very poor people right now, despite the country being one of the richest in the world. And it's a small country, small population. So what will Trump try to do is, right now, he has put these people in charge from the US side to work closely with the government of the day. They don't want to change this government because if they want to completely change this government or bring about so-called democracy and whatnot, they will be landing into bigger problems. So they want to continue to work with this one and dictate exactly how things are to be done. That is one. Now, of course, even the army or the police in Venezuela basically is also very much like Maduro, and they believe in those kind of principles. And so it is very likely, and some strategies that have come out from them is that they could go in the Vietnamese style of resistance. So if that happens, that means we are looking at a prolonged disquiet in the country. To what level it will go, then the Americans don't like to come on boots, but they will definitely send their, various forces that they have been sending all over to dislodge, and whether it's Blackstone or someone else, those can be deployed here to guard their interest in the country. So you will see now, on the one hand, they are trying to persuade all the American companies to come in and invest about $60 billion to $100 billion in the country so that they start getting more oil, and which can be then payback for the investments in that sense. So all these are looking good at the moment, but as they say, the devil lies in detail. So eventually one would know that how much resistance one can face at the grassroots level. Secondly, you also have other countries in the region. Except for Argentina and Ecuador, every other country in the region has condemned this attack on Venezuela's sovereignty and integrity. Now, that is there. Mexican president has also spoken very, very strongly against this and even challenged President Trump. It could be that you might see some strikes there, not on the president per se, perhaps, but on the drug cartels and all. Colombia could be the next, which could be an easy target. Iran could be another one where they might like to go in soon. So I believe that they are spreading themselves too thin as far as, but the US is known to destabilize. No country, nowhere in the world have they stabilized. So instability means more business for them. In this Russia-Ukraine war, the only country that has really benefited, and President Trump has admitted, is the military-industrial complex of the United States. So they tend to gain either way, and they play the games in such a manner that they'll be. But as I said, that the national security strategy has clearly, which he calls a Donroe Doctrine, not Monroe Doctrine, but Donroe Doctrine. And therefore, he is very keen that this particular region, the Western Hemisphere, no country will go out of his influence and entertain the Chinese or the Russians or anybody else. Now, if this becomes a sphere of influence that Russia says, I'll have Eastern Europe, China says, I'll have Southeast Asia and this, and you continue to have your Western Hemisphere, then this is a kind of a situation that could also prevail.
Yeah. So anyways, I mean, the world is actually set to be disruptive only.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think my last question to both of you all can address one by one is that we've seen the responses of countries. Russia was the first one to condemn it. China has condemned it in very, very strong terms. They have said, that the US needs to free Maduro and his wife immediately. Then Iran, I think, has also said something. Otherwise, Cuba and Brazil, which we are together in BRICS, all 3-4 of us. So the BRICS has really taken a stand, I think. Cuban president also Brazil's is Lula, I think, right?
Yes, Brazil.
Brazil is Lula.
Brazil.
Yeah. So these countries have really spoken. But otherwise, what I want to ask is, see, if, as General Mathur also said, that this legitimizes, kind of Russia's going into Ukraine and even China maybe going into Taiwan. You think this is going to escalate, or how do you think?
No, escalate with whom? Sorry, General Saab, you can take this first. Later on.
Escalate in the sense that
No, please carry on, sir. Please carry on.
Russia, think why not? I mean, Russia as it is has an upper hand in Ukraine. So the
Russian situation is likely to escalate because of the attack on President Putin's residence by the Ukrainian forces. And that Putin, knowing, if you know him, I mean, he is not the one who's going to take it lying down. He has already deployed other resources and trying to just batter them as much as he can. But between US and Russia, I don't see that there is any scope of escalation. In fact, there is an escalation towards normalizing ties between the two countries, which is continuing on the parallel track apart from the Ukrainian thing. So US and Russia are working on their own equation. That's there. As far as China is concerned, China has more than $100 billion invested in Venezuela. It has been importing significant quantities of oil from there. And that will also come under this. Of course, not that it depends heavily on this oil, because they have many other sources, including Russia itself. So, but this definitely legitimizes others to take the similar action. So nobody can endorse the way that international law has been violated, UN Charter has been violated, whether it was by Russia or by the United States or by China for that matter. They're taking, by force removing a leader from a country who was sovereign so I think that situation is very dicey, but we are living in a very disruptive world order
Also, China
currently.
has invested in that Belt and Road.
Yes,
So
of course. I mean,
it
they are
will,
part of it.
that is why strongly speaking, because it has to protect its billions of dollars, which has been invested so much.
Yeah. No,
Yes.
that is true. I mean, all over the China, 150 odd countries have been invested in those countries.
Yeah.
So eventually, but then China, in any case, as General also was saying, China has been wanting to buy some peace for a decade or so that it can become number one.
Mm.
You see, if it gets engaged in a war immediately, it'll go back. Definitely, it'll impact on it. So China is playing in a very smart manner. It will continue to publicly condemn. Even at the United Nations, you will see a great condemnation and all that. UN Security Council meeting was supposed to be held today, I guess, emergency session. So when we'll have to see the UNGA vote actually. When the UNGA issues a resolution, if it does, then which countries, that is the time that the countries will decide. Many will abstain, many will positive, one will negative. So we'll have to see how it plays out. UN Security Council will not go through because US will veto it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Jal Mathur, to you.
See, the fact is, if I just want to add one what you were saying, then I will tell you my thing. This Marx is moving around. So the point is the Americans, what Americans are doing is with the only singular aim of their economic interests. As far as China is concerned, when I was saying China is they started this 100-year marathon many years ago, and they believe the basic Chinese philosophy of war fighting comes from Sun Tzu's famous saying that you must win a war without fighting, and that exactly is what China is doing. They do not fight war. What they're doing is, again, it follows three phases. The one important phase is diplomatic and psychological assault. The moment there is something, the Chinese go all out on the front of psychological warfare or a media or whatever, information warfare, disinformation warfare, whatever you may say, and then they bring it into effect just short of an actual military aggression, because they understand any military aggression, any military encounter with anyone will impact their 100-year marathon. And that is why you will find Chinese not getting involved in any physical activity, physical fight with any country. You tell me which country has China fought in so many years? No one. They are very clear. That is where the difference lies. America, I told you, in last 1 year has attacked 7 countries. 7 countries. It is not, they can't be a leader of the world by this kind of military coercion, but they want to do it. The response to what other nations are saying, those nations who are favoring America's action are the ones which are scared of America, or
How
which
many are
need
favoring? How
America's
many
help.
are favoring? I think maybe
See,
Europe.
why Argentina? Why Argentina has said whatever they have said. So it is because they know that if they
The
don't toe
Europeans,
the US line now, they'll be next. So that is where the whole thing is, and you'll see things happening in Mexico, Cuba, and many other places.
Okay, you think so?
And Iran, North Korea,
Iran.
this new axis, that is this, which I always called China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. That axis is coming up as an important alliance, and you'll see the reaction of these 4 countries has been very strong and vociferous.
We also see, a lot of protests going on in many countries. Even in New York, people are protesting against against this US operation, and they're asking to free Maduro and bring back the status.
Absolutely. I am sitting as of now in US. I know what you're saying.
Okay. Okay, so with that, I hope that things get back in shape, and as you said, militarily, it can only lead to some disasters, and a lot of people being killed, and innocent people being killed for that matter. So thank you so much, Ambassador Trigunayat and Major General
Thank you.
Anup Mathur, to join me on this show, and I'm sure lot has been got out from our talks. Thank you once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Thank-
Thank you.
Thank you, Jai Hind.
Thank you, Jay.